All right, call the meeting of the Sanborn Regional School Board to order. We'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we are going to move the Student Council Representatives report to the first item. If no one has any objections, so Jocelyn can get to her basketball tryouts.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Sports started yesterday. Everyone seems super excited about it. The new season. We have basketball. We have a big bowling team this year. Everyone's super excited about it. Next week is all of our band concerts and winter concerts. So the 7th is the band concert. Middle school is at 6 p.m. High school is at 7 p.m. And the 14th is the middle school and high school chorus concert. And Kaylin Heath and Adam Putnam made all-state chorus, which is very hard to get into. It's very selective, which means that they are like one of the top singers in the state for chorus, which is super awesome that we have 2 chorus people because we don't get those every year. And we're lucky to have Dr. Favaza from UNH come down to help out all the 7th through 12th grade chorus people
That's great.
with like enhancing their chorus ability and like figuring out things that like little issues and seeing how they can get better. And our tech crew has been learning about sounds, lights, and putting up production. They successfully put on Clue a few weeks ago. And they are getting ready to put on the Addams Family in the spring. Again, the complete athlete that Mr. Gray is running and Miss Alley. That today we had Jake, an alumni, come in and talk to all of the women athletes about like training and how to train the correct way in the gym. And then they all did a workout, which is a super awesome program. And next Thursday we have a leadership day so everyone in life of a student and people that want to from Key Club and Student Council are able to go to leadership program. Adam Bradley is coming in to talk to everyone. Mr. Gray and Life of a Student set it up, and everyone's super excited to be able to get more of a leadership ability. So a lot of captains are going and everyone that wants to have more of a better leadership. That's what's happening.
Great. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
All right.
night.
All right.
Good luck.
Good luck tonight.
All right, so if I can get action on the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Wait,
Oh.
I'm sorry. Was this? Yeah, I wasn't at this one, so
No, you were not.
I'm going to
So-
abstain.
You can abstain, yeah.
Okay, so, and I would like to make mention, Heather Ingham has an excused absence tonight. But she will try, assuming things are going okay, and she is able, she's going to try and Zoom in with us for the budget discussion and vote. So I'll check in with her, make sure she's okay to do that. And we'll play that one by ear. All right, so on to communications. Oh, wait, I forgot to, no, we did vote, sorry. I'm still.
Little brain fog.
A little brain fog here. All right, I already sent around manifest documents. We have no nominations or resignations. So it is on to the superintendent's report.
I just like to know how people wear glasses and masks and not fog up, but I'll try my best.
I know, right?
All right, I have a small superintendent's update tonight. Most of our conversation will be about the budget. I just wanted to give you an update on substitute teachers. Diana Rooney sent this email and asked me to read it to you. It says, I'm happy to report that we're actively recruiting and hiring substitute teachers on a weekly basis. We have approximately 40 active substitutes employed with us, which is up significantly from 23 or 4 when we made decisions earlier this year. On any given day, we've been ranging anywhere from 8 to 19 substitutes accepting openings in our district. The 2 key factors that contribute to our success in securing substitute teachers is the higher rate of pay of $130 a day, and the fact that we give many substitutes a fixed schedule when they come into the buildings. So they come into the buildings up to 3 days per week and do not need to accept a position. They're just planning to work there. So that was an idea that Diana came up with when we were meeting to strategize about what to do. So the pay combined with giving them a fixed schedule has made a really big difference. Diana's exact wording was, "This has been huge for us." Another key factor is Kristen McNulty, who's worked extremely hard contacting and onboarding our substitutes. She's made this a priority, and without her hard work and dedication, we would not be as successful as we are. She has really, when people put in an application or they call and ask questions, she really just has worked with them to get everything in and done and ready to go as quickly as possible. In fact, I think we have 4 more new subs coming on board this week. So it's going great. So thank you. I know that we wondered if the pay increase would really make a difference, and I wanted to share that we feel that has made a significant difference. So thank you for that. In other business, I just want to continue to, I'm sure this will probably come up as a component of the budget. But I do each time we meet, I'm just going to mention that I have been monitoring the federal legislation around universal pre-K. And at this time in the current proposed budget that's moved to the Senate, the universal pre-K is still in the budget. So that means that at some point in the near future, we should probably have a second conversation about grades 6 and 3 and what we're considering doing with regard to grades 3 and 6. I just don't want folks in the public to think that we just dropped that and we're not discussing it anymore. We will be discussing it in future meetings, and we will keep everyone posted far in advance so that people can attend and share their points of view, because we want to be very transparent about this process. Other than that, I will say that it's been a challenging 3 weeks with our COVID situation. We have had a lot of hard things going on. As you know, the Memorial School was remote for 2 days. Halloween really did cause us to have a significant, I'm not going to say that causation and correlation are always connected, right? Correlation doesn't always mean causation. We noticed that at the holiday of Halloween, we had a lot more cases of COVID the following 2 weeks. And it was really challenging. It'll be interesting to see what happens in another week. We continue to monitor COVID per the DHHS protocols. And it does take, I just want to remind everyone, it takes a significant amount of time to manage these COVID cases. Diana Rooney is probably spending half of her time as an employee dealing with DHHS and sending in all the information for every case. It's really, really frustrating, but it's what we're required to do. So we comply and get it done. It's not a choice. When there's a case, the principal has to contact trace, and then they have to notify people. And then after they notify people, those people have been typically coming up with cases, and then they have to contact trace those. Then they tell Diana. Diana has to call the state and send in all this information in a complex spreadsheet. It is manageable, but very cumbersome. So we are currently at a reasonable level of cases. Bakey has 25 cases right now, but none of them are clusters. So in other words, they're not connected. So people have been asking me, what will happen? What drives needing to go remote? What happens with the plan? And I'll just say this for tonight, and we'll put this on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss. Really, going remote is a combination of 3 factors. One is having 10% of the total student population simultaneously positive in COVID. So Memorial had 10% of their students were COVID positive simultaneously. Second is having 30% or more of the students absent, right? So think about Memorial had 25 or 26%. And then the third thing is staff, whether or not we have the staffing. So I met with the Memorial staff on Tuesday, and I explained to them that part of why we went remote for 2 days was because we had more than 10% of the students had COVID simultaneously. And we were seeing transmission in the school, an actual outbreak starting to happen where kids were connected through school and classrooms were starting to have 3 or 4 cases simultaneously. We did then look at the staffing, and I explained to the staff at Memorial that normally what we would do is if we had a number of staff out because they had contracted COVID or needed to be out for other purposes, because typically quarantining doesn't happen very much anymore. we would be more likely to put the high school on remote and have staff come cover Memorial, so Memorial and Bakey stay open. The reason why we were closed for 2 days or remote for 2 days was because of the high number of students and the fact that the 2 days gave us a 9-day break because of the Thanksgiving holiday. It just worked out perfectly. And sure enough, we've come back from break and the number of cases at Memorial has gone way down. So we're really happy about that. And we feel we made the right decision. But I just want everyone to understand that we follow the plan, but the plan is just a guideline. It is not black and white. We have to make decisions based on the information that we're seeing in real time and then figure out whether or not we need to adjust the plan too. It can't just be lockstep. This is how it's going to go. We try to follow it as closely as possible. But in this instance, because of the timing of the 2 days and being able to have a 9-day break, it really worked really well. So I want everyone to know that the number of cases has gone way down in that building, and we're really happy about that. And we'll be monitoring it. Bakey is at 25, but on Monday, they should go down to below 15 because certain kids who have it will come off the list. The process is, I don't agree with some of the process. I'm not going to get into the semantics of it or the politics of it. I don't care. I just do what I'm told. The HHS has told us what the process is. We follow the process to the T. In fact, they've said to us multiple times, we can't believe how good you guys are at this. Like you really do everything right. So we thank you to Diana Rooney and our administrators. And most importantly, I just wanted to say thank you to our nurses. Our nurses are doing a fantastic job and we are really grateful for them. So any nurses out there, thank you very much. And that will conclude the superintendent's report.
Okay. All right. So we will move on to committee reports. Since Heather is not here, I told her I would give a quick overview of the policy minutes. They're from November 3rd, 2021. In attendance was Chair Heather Ingham, Tammy Mahoney, Don Dutton, Brian Stack, and Superintendent Ambrose. We reviewed the minutes. They were accepted. And then we reviewed policy BBBE, vacancies and unexpired term fulfillment. We had discussion on that, and then we moved it forward to the board for a first read. We then reviewed policy ILBAA, high school graduation competencies, and we had discussion again and moved that also forward for a first read. Then we reviewed JLCJA, emergency plans for sports-related injuries and additional protocols for athletic participation. It's a long one. We had discussion on that and moved that also for first read. Then we reviewed policy IB, academic freedom and divisive concepts. And we also reviewed what happened with that one? Oh, we had a question about some wording. So we were going to get some legal advice on that. Then we reviewed policy GBI, staff participation in political activities. We moved that to the board for first read. We then reviewed JICC, student conduct on business to the board, discussed, and also, nope. Says the group will bring forward the policy and withdraw the earlier version. Oh, that's right. Okay. Policy EEAEC, student conduct on buses for the SRSD policies after approval. We then discussed JICC. We then decided to move forward with JICC for first read. And then JICC-R, school bus conduct rules. We moved that one forward to the board for a first read as well. We were supposed to have a policy subcommittee meeting tonight. We had to cancel that. And the next meeting is January 5th at 5 p.m. Excellence in student achievement.
Okay, excellence in student achievement met on November 18th. We had a lot of content in that meeting, so bear with me.
Can I just put in a shameless plug for those of you at home? The video of the meeting is available online at the Sanborn Regional School District. YouTube page. And if you'd like to watch it, I highly recommend it. But if you can't find the link, just email Phyllis and we'll get that link right to you. Right,
Mm.
Phyllis? Thank you. Okay.
There's always a lot of discussion, and those are pretty packed meetings. So I definitely, it's hard to, I summarize it in my minutes, but it's kind of hard to get everything in. So I do encourage everyone to watch the videos. Okay, so in that meeting, in attendance, myself, Mr. Fitzpatrick, Ms. Dutton, Mr. Ambrose, Dr. Haynes, Ms. DeRocher, Ms. Levitt, Mr. Stack, Mr. Malilla, Mr. McCluskey, Dr. Kennett. Dr. Haynes reported on the progress of the new K-6 curriculum, math curriculum rollout, which is progressing smoothly, but still with the need to backfill gaps from the previous math program. The 7 through 12 selection process is underway. Mr. Fitzpatrick inquired about feedback from teachers on the new program Envision, which is generally positive with regard to pacing and student engagement. Mr. McCluskey noted that it does require more reading and that the 4th and 5th grade teachers find the online components to be more useful and helpful. Dr. Kennett noted that for K through 3rd graders, there are some challenges with independent practice, and that in general, much of the focus for the younger students this year is on regaining academic tolerance and concentration levels lost from last year, pandemic related. Mr. Malilla reported that the high school graduation committee met regarding the 24 credit diploma. And this is planned to be phased in gradually for each grade level. Mr. Stack also shared 2 options which are under consideration for the Bell schedule next year. In the first option, classes would meet every day for the same block of time, which is roughly 35 to 40 minutes. In the second option, that model would be offered for 3 days, with the next 2 days of classes having longer blocks of 60 to 70 minutes. The first model is logistically simpler, but it lacks larger blocks of time, obviously, for deeper learning. Mr. Ambrose noted that in his experience, that 3-2 model offers flexibility and that the logistical challenges should not be insurmountable. Ms. Levitt discussed changes being considered to the diploma with distinction, which is currently achieved by earning more credits than the standard diploma requires. The goal for that is for it to be more rigorous and meaningful, and possibly to include a capstone project. Ms. DeRocher provided us with an overview of the intervention program. The goal is for each student to demonstrate adequate yearly growth. So all students receive Tier 1 or universal instruction with the classroom teacher, where students are grouped according to skills assessed from performance testing, such as the NEWA. Students who are struggling are moved to Tier 2 for targeted instruction in a small group setting where goals are set and progress is measured. Students who continue to struggle are moved to Tier 3 for intensive instruction with more frequent monitoring. And we had asked the administration to let us know how many intervention teachers are in each school. So the high school has 1 ELA and 1 math intervention teacher. The middle school has 1 literacy intervention teacher and an applied math teacher. Memorial and Bakey each have 1 ELA and 1 math intervention teacher, and Bakey also has a math paraprofessional. Mr. Rocher noted that this is a very different approach for the staff and expressed appreciation for their efforts to implement it this year. Dr. Haynes reported that the New Hampshire Department of Education notified districts that student assessment data they have uploaded to their public website has not been authenticated and is not yet available for districts' use. The target is for them to have it available in December. We're hoping to have a report on that at our next meeting. Dr. Haynes also reported briefly that feedback from parents on report cards has been positive, with fewer questions than in previous years. Mr. Fitzpatrick commented that he would like some additional information provided to explain how the grades are weighted. So our next meeting is 2 weeks from today, December 15th. We meet at 4:30.
Can I add one little piece? First of all, thank you. That was really well done. You just did the video, Tammy. That was awesome. The short version. But I will say that it's important for everyone to know that there are there's some misinformation out there about the band program and whether or not kids can take a foreign language in band. And Mr. Stack has worked diligently to assure that that will not occur to the best of our ability. As with any schedule, kids have to make choices sometimes about what they take, but we are trying very hard to accommodate students who want to take band and a foreign language for all 4 years. So that Mr. Stack has had some really good creative answers to that. And anyone who has questions about that, just hang tight, because as soon as the schedule is chosen, Mr. Stack will share out to the community the information and ask for feedback. So he's just not quite at that stage yet, but we're getting close. Highly recommend that you watch the YouTube video of the ISA meeting from last week. Thank you.
And just to help you out, it's SRSD meeting videos on YouTube is how you find
Oh, thank you. SRSD meeting videos on YouTube. Yeah. Thank you, Don.
All right, finance. Oh, he's pulling his mic close.
Yeah, because I know how grating that voice is. I wanted to just be like on the chalkboard. So the Finance Committee meeting was held on November the 18th. Jim Baker and myself were present along with Mr. Angel. Ms. Bashaw was not able to attend, was excused from the meeting. Minutes from 10/20/21, Mr. Baker motioned the acceptance. I seconded and was unanimously approved. We went through the trust funds as of October 31st. I have it down to the penny in the minutes, but I'm going to round to be a little bit quicker here. In the special education expendable trust fund, there's $241,000. In the capital improvement and maintenance trust fund, there's now $273,000, a $50,000 increase due to the warrant article money posting. The unanticipated educational expense fund is at $200,000. Again, a $50,000 increase due to the warrant article money posting. Facilities use revolving fund is $166,000. That includes the rental income of $11,667 and a couple of expense items, the external tape drive that the board had approved previously for $6,547, and Tyler Tech, which is our new accounting software. We're getting close to the final payments there. We're at about $12,900 on that one. The total is $880,800. And in addition to that, if people recall, we put aside some unexpected unexpended funds at the end of last year, which is over 500,000. So we're close to $1.4 million from a position that was quite deteriorated a number of years ago. So that's worth noting. Revenue and general spending reports are reviewed. Health spending, year-to-date spend is at 1.2 million. Encumbered is 3.8 million. Unexpended funds as of now is 0.8 million. This includes a 400,000 premium reimbursement that we had. So because we're in a major pool, there's a reimbursement that came in because not everybody used up the monies available. And so the premium comes back as one of the players in the pool, we got a share of that back. That's included in that roughly $800,000 of unexpended. And I'll just note, and this was discussed in the meeting also, but it's not in my minutes. When we say encumbered, that means it's based upon what we expect these to be, absent some changes that might occur, people selecting things differently, or new people coming in and changing programs or what have you. All non-health spending year to date is $8.8 million. Encumbered is 17.9 million. Unexpended funds are 3.6 million. Overall revenues year to date booked 26.4 million, including the receivables for the full year for both Kingston and Newton. Still to be collected, not even yet billed, some of them. Fremont's tuition of 3 million, adequate education funding of 2.6 million, and building aid of about $250,000 and catastrophic aid of 0.2. Open items were reviewed. The memorial playground is now complete. Chains have been installed. That's all set. The high school roof, we're waiting on some contractor quotes to address some of the issues there. And Mr. Baker had requested the areas around the windows be caulked, and Mr. Angel agreed that he would take care of that. Mr. Angel also provided new invoice information on book receipts. That was an outstanding request of mine. Business administrator comments, tax rates. The tax rate was set for the town of Kingston at $21.28. The school portion of that is $15.74. It's lower by 36 cents. The town of Newton, as of the time of the meeting, had not set their tax rate, so we do not have that information.
Can you say that part slowly and loudly? The school portion was $15
$15.74
and it went down by how much?
by 36 cents.
Thank you. I just think people see their overall bill. They don't look at the part that we control,
That's true.
right?
We next talked about inflation. Mr. Angel talked about the October consumer price index for New England was at 5.6%. Fuel prices based on, in the budget, he was looking at a fuel pricing based on $2.50 a gallon, which is up significantly from the $2.19 that we're locked in now. And the $2.50 is an estimation because the New Hampshire estimates are much higher than that for retail pricing, up to $3.25, $3.50. Electricity, 17.51 cents per kilowatt hour. Currently, we're locked at 7 cents, but the 17 is a residential rate. But needless to say, we're seeing significant price increases in electricity. Health insurance rates were set, and they came in at between 7.8 to 9.8% depending upon which plan was picked. So we had asked Mr. Angel to give us the information as to what was in the budget for assumptions and what inflationary information he had. There were budget adjustments, and I had read these out at the last meeting. Special education, 131,446 was from the high school out-of-state tuition to the middle school out-of-state tuition accounts. We had a heating oil budget adjustment, moving monies from the middle school and the high school to the old middle school campus in Bakey for the heating in those areas. The third one was discussed was bookshelves. There's 8 bookshelves for $13,000, $1,630 each. The committee asked to look into this further as to what it was for. Mr. Angel felt it was for the new math program. And we also asked about what we could do to lower the costs, and Mr. Angel would confirm the intended purposes and what we could do on the costs. Elevator access was discussed. A new quote came in for $2,856, plus Otis elevator had to be there also, estimated at 2 hours, max quote at 4 hours for $395 an hour. The administration is going to go ahead and install that for the elevator to control access. ACH payment plan, Mr. Angel reviewed a proposed procedure, committee members to review and provide feedback to Mr. Angel. And we still had the open item that we did not get to of the COVID spending update. And that's what we had for that meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Facilities.
The facilities met today or this afternoon, and I'll have the report at the next meeting. The next facilities meeting is January 5th.
Just so everyone knows, it will be a very long report because we went outside on the roof. It was super fun. If anyone else would like to go outside on the roof, just let Mr. Angel know. And
It's an
he'll,
awesome experience.
it really is worth taking a quick trip
Get
up
the
there before a
sense of
board
the
meeting.
Size of the building.
I think any of you who didn't go, I'm serious, like ask Matt for a quick tour. It takes 10 minutes, but it gives you a sense of the massive scope of the building. When you see it from the top of the roof, the square footage, it was pretty cool.
Public relations.
Public relations met earlier today. I will report at our next meeting.
Personnel meets on December 15th at 3 p.m. SST, is there anything?
They have not met.
Okay. Budget.
Budget committee met on November 18th. It was a joint meeting with the school board. So I won't get into details on that. And the next meeting is tomorrow, December 2nd,
And is that at 7 o'clock, Maura?
7 o'clock.
Okay, here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just for the public. I just
Yes,
wanted to make sure.
sorry, 7 o'clock
No
tomorrow.
problem.
And Heather is not here for wellness.
We have a 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Did it change? You're making me question it, but
Okay.
it's always at
Yep.
7.
Tomorrow night at 7.
Yeah, budget's always at 7.
The hope is that the board adopts a budget and sends it to the BudCom
I
tomorrow.
will.
All right, first public comment.
Hi, I'm Annie Collier, Newton. First of all, I really appreciate the amount of information that you folks give on the subcommittee meetings. I like to listen to the videos and to hear them, but I think you do a really great job summarizing. So thank you. As you were looking at shaping the curriculum, the vertical and horizontal curriculum, it's become very apparent because the state of New Hampshire does not require it, that enrichment is not really a part of our curriculum currently. Some teachers offer enrichment to kids who are performing at or above school level, but some don't. And I'd really love to see the school board make it a policy and then modify however it needs to be done in ISA and or as contract negotiations happen or whatever is needed to make enrichment a part of what we offer here at Sanborn. If we have, as Superintendent Ambrose has said, 10 to 20% of the kids who may not be ready for 8th grade algebra as we implement, then that also means if we have a bell curve, we have at least 10 or 20 kids who are well above grade level, 20% of each grade. And we also have probably another 30 or 40 who are performing at least at grade level and possibly not at a tremendously accelerated level. But I think it would be so important for these kids to be able to be enriched and challenged and to have some sort of A++ reward system put into place when they meet those challenges. So I'd really love to see that as a part of what the school board does here. The second thing is that we're all very aware that not everybody should go to college and take on college debt and maybe spend many, many years paying it back for not much gain, that there are really, really good jobs in the trades. There are also really good mini certifications that are available. And I believe SANHU offers a lot of those. And I'd like to see the school board explore access to some of those for kids. I think they're like little mini 6-week programs. And as you're looking at little half credit programs as a part of the 24 credit diploma, that might be something that could be offered that could be enriching for college and career readiness. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have Heather joining us now via Zoom. So Heather, if you'd just like to state your name, where you are, and if there is anyone in the room with you, that would be great.
Hi, Heather Ingham, a school board member in Newton. I am in my home, in my office, and there's no one in with me, but there may be a photo bomb by a 6-year-old.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I know it's not easy for you, but thank you very much for
Thanks, Heather.
joining us. All right. So if we'd like to get on to the budget.
Great. So I've had a lot of individual conversations with people who have sent emails with questions about I'll review the process. We presented the budget at the beginning of November to the board and BudCom. Now we had an information night where I shared the answers to all the questions that came in, about roughly 90 questions. And then some people had follow-up questions or just wonderings, and they would email Matt or I, and we got them those answers. And so what happens this evening is the board deliberates and then decides, hopefully, comes to consensus and votes on a budget to move forward to the budget committee for tomorrow night. So having said that, I'll have Mr. Angel take a minute and review the proposed budget total and the operating budget total as it stands today. And I would just say that from a procedure standpoint, most of the time what we do is we go around the board and each board member talks about their questions and concerns and ideas. And then once we've gone around through the board once, someone will make a motion to add or subtract to the budget, and then that motion would be discussed and voted on. So that's kind of the process. And then at some point we get to the point where we feel like we've kind of come to hopefully a consensus as a team. I do want to mention before we start that process that a lot of people have asked me a similar question, so I wanted to share that information. People have asked me about the items that I placed as being very important but not included in the budget. That would be the track, the wireless system, and the auditorium. And I just wanted to speak to those three things universally because I've talked to so many people privately about them via either emails or phone calls. I want to be clear that number one, these items were not put in the budget, not because they aren't important, but because we felt like the budget was the amount of increase of the budget just due to contractual obligations and needs was enough for 1 year. It's about 3% how much? 3.3%.
I'm sorry.
Is the budget up about 3.3%?
I'm sorry. The default budget is up 3.39%. And then, so the operating budget is down from that by 0.01%.
Right.
So it would be 3.38%.
So I just want to talk about those three items because they are really important. If the Wi-Fi goes down tomorrow, we have to fix it. and it is old. But I want everyone to understand that what I'm saying to you is when we get to the end of the year and we have money left over, that might be a good time to talk about the track or the other items that I put in that list, or doing a combination of things. What I don't want people, so we could use the capital money that we have, the reserve, the money that we're getting from the rent on the SLC. There are options and levers to deal with those three things. The one I would caution school boards about with these three things is warrant articles, because no means no, and we have to have the internet. You can't, if the community votes down replacing the internet, we kind of have a problem, right? Like, how are we going to run the schools if the internet goes down? The second one that I'm concerned about is the auditorium. The auditorium, I misspoke a little bit, I think, or I didn't misspeak. I just wasn't clear enough, and I want to clear this up. I would love to have our auditorium generate some revenue for the district, but that is not why I'm saying that the auditorium repairs are important. My first mission is to help our kids learn and have an enriching experience in high school. And the auditorium upgrades are for the kids first, for the programming, for the music, band, chorus that you heard about from our student rep tonight. You've seen when you come in the building tonight, the kids are all running around. They're doing a play. They're wearing these really cool costumes. Our auditorium is for our program first. It's also for professional development. It's where we do training with teachers. I don't do training in there right now. The projector's better, but the screen is horrible. And the lighting is really not great. The district's functions come before income. I do think that once it's done, that the opportunity to rent it would be better than what it is now. But I want people to look at that issue through the lens of supporting our kids first, not making money. And I'm not saying that to anyone on this board or the BudCom directly I understand the questions about revenue, but I'm not looking at this as a revenue generating situation. I'm looking at it as we need a really great functional auditorium for the kids, and the kids always come first for me. Now, having said that, it's impossible to rent it if it doesn't work well, right? Because no one's going to trust it. You have to trust it to rent it. So I do think that we would have opportunities to rent it, but I would love to see us have 3 plays a year in the auditorium instead of 1, or more band concerts, or whatever it is that we do with the space. It's such a beautiful space, and it's so great for our community. One of my favorite memories of my first year here was seeing the senior citizens come and have lunch and go to the play before COVID. I love that. It was really cool. The kids and engaging with the seniors, the whole thing. The last one, the track, I want to just explain about the track. I did do the homework, and the track, if we don't take care of the track for $75,000 to $85,000, and it deteriorates to the point where the membrane on the track is eroded and you have to replace the whole track, you're looking at $250,000 to $400,000. So this is a no-brainer to fix quickly. And I am recommending to the board that if we have funds at the end of the year, that we have a conversation about that. So those are what Matt's been jokingly calling Tom's big 3 in the budget presentation. But I think that we can deal with those things between funds at the end of the year and reserve accounts, as long as we are transparent about what we're doing and why. I don't think that, what I don't want to do is get to the end of the year and on the last meeting at the end of the year in the third hour of the meeting saying, oh, we need to fix the track, let's spend $80,000, right? We're talking about it now. So those were my big thoughts on the budget. I would be a fan of having a conversation about a warrant article with regard to our heating oil and electricity, because we did lower those some in our proposed budget. And I think that we need a little bit of safety room. We're really worried about inflation in those 3 areas, the propane, the heating oil, and the electricity. But if we put it out to warrant, I don't know if that no would mean no. So I've got to figure that out. And we can probably craft a warrant article that has a broader base, and not have it be about unanticipated increases due to inflation instead of attached to one specific item. I'd have to do some homework on. We don't have to do that tonight. All we need to do tonight, the warrant articles can come later, but what we need to do tonight is adopt a budget and send it on to the BudCom. All right. So I hope that helped, and I'll turn it over to Dawn.
Okay.
Oh, can Matt do the amounts?
Oh, yes, please.
Where are we at this point, Matt?
Okay, so the current adopted budget is $11,926. The default budget that was presented was $37,232,635, and the operating budget was $37,229,463.
Can you give this year's budget again, please?
$36,011,926.
Thank you.
So the default budget would be an increase over the current adopted budget of 3.39%. But the current operating budget, proposed operating budget would be a 0.01% decrease from the default budget.
Can you give the increase over
The,
year for operating budgets?
if you were to compare the proposed operating budget to the current operating budget, it would be 3.38%.
What's the dollar amount, Matt?
I'm sorry, the dollar amount of the proposed operating budget, $37,229,463.
And can you give me the difference so I don't have to calculate?
Come on. I'm sorry, I'm reading from a slide.
It's okay. I can't put my glasses on with this mask on, or I fog right up like a,
It's crazy.
yeah. I was going to say like a snowboarder on a powder day, but I caught myself.
Yeah.
I have, it's $1,217,537.
Thank you, Tammy.
Mhm.
All right, were there any other questions for Matt quickly about those numbers? All right. Mr. Broderick, if you'd like to share any thoughts you have.
No, I think we covered 87 questions last meeting. And then you added more questions that you answered to people individually. So
Yep.
I think it is what it is. I think we're ready to move.
Okay.
All right, Maura?
I'm a little torn on this needs that aren't added in. I understand I know there's a lot of factors where New Hampshire, where Kingston and Newton both have taxes that are going up for their own town budgets. I'm just concerned at what point do we stop? We've cut a lot of things out the last couple of years, and I'm not saying that was necessarily wrong, but at what point do we kind of stop with that? And there's just these needs that are in here that I think really need to be addressed. I do want to adopt something that's going to be passed. At the end of the day, that's really what matters to me. Some of these things that are on the needs list, I would say if we're not going to put them in the budget, I'd like to see if we have any money at the end of the year. I'd like to see it go towards those things. There's another thing that wasn't on the needs list that's really important, I believe, which is the enrichment program. I think it's something that kids really look forward to. And we have a lot of special needs and special education programs, but we don't really have a lot, especially at the lower level, for those students. And I think it's a twofold thing. One is they're not being challenged enough, but I think that some of the kids, it can become a behavioral thing for these students where that they're not being challenged in class. And maybe that's also why some of them are acting out. So I would like to see enrichment be added to that needs list. So I guess that's really where I stand on things.
Jamie?
Funny you should ask.
Darn it, I should have skipped him.
So I've spent a considerable amount of time on the budget, on the spreadsheets, with the administration, going back and forth on the numbers. We just compared budgets to budgets. I also wanted to compare, even though that's not normally done, actuals to budgets, where have we ended up and what have we been doing? And I think it's important for the community to understand what some of these differences are. So when you look at the spending over the last number of years, this board, and with changing members, but this board has held at about 34 million for the last 3 years. A lot of things going on in those numbers. And now we're at 37. So when I looked at this, I said, what the dickens is going on? And spent a lot of time building a bridge to say, what are these differences? I need to convince myself that this makes sense. And so we went through them, and a lot of it comes from about 1.3 million of the delta comes from contract agreements. So we went to the public voted on the contracts for the administrators. They voted there's still time on the contract for the paras. They voted on the professional staff contracts. That was about $1.3 million over the 2-year period, because this is a 2023 budget versus 2021. There was then a surprising number to me, about a $1.5 million hit for unfilled positions and the many things associated with unfilled positions. And I roll into that this premium that came back in 2021 that you can't always expect to come back. And that was a big number. And then when you look at it, and we've had discussions, it was brought up by a member of the public, and Maura just brought up about enrichment. Well, we haven't really fulfilled what we intended to do with the intervention programs. We've struggled to hold people. We struggled to get people. The government changed the way they're giving money out to people. It's just been very hard to get people to join us on that endeavor. So, and then we had the remote for the end of 20. We had, 2021 starting remote and a lot of issues, and still a lot of kids that were out on remote during that time frame. So that's a big chunk of it. So we also had some money in transportation that changed. And of course, we restricted some of how far people could go on a bus because of COVID. So I guess the bottom line is I can rationalize, and it makes sense to me how we get from that number to the default. I have significant concern that there's no daylight in between the default and the proposed. So when it comes time for a motion, I will be making a motion, and I hope it'll get seconded, to do something to put some daylight in between. And I've already talked to the administration about my intent, so I'm not trying to pull a fast one on anybody. But I do think there needs to be daylight. Right now, as it exists on the ballot, it would say default budget 37,232,635. Proposed 37,229,463. Many people don't read the ends of those numbers. They do what I just did in my minutes, and they cut it off, and they're both 37.2. There's a 372 as the first three numbers, and we might get people pulling the wrong one. And I don't want a default budget, because a default budget has things in the wrong accounts, and they're very difficult to manage in that manner. So I do think that we need something. Interesting. Ms. Bashaw just brought up what we need to do, and maybe do some things at the end of the year. We just had a facilities meeting, and one of the discussions were, where are we on the capital improvement capital plan? And part of the discussion that we had as we were walking around the roof is we really need to understand and get quotes and come to the board sometime in the spring with recommendations from the facility committee saying, we think from a facilities perspective, we ought to be doing these things. And we should tell people beforehand that's what the meeting's about. They can come and weigh in. And then we as a board can vote on that if there's unexpended funds, that's what we're going to do. What I don't want to be is be in a position at the end of the year where we are interpreted as gluttons running for a trench. Oh, wow, there's money, let's spend it. I think we have demonstrated with the numbers I just mentioned, 30. So if I go back a number of years, 33.7, 34.4, 34.2, 33.7 in the actuals, the board has demonstrated fiscal conservatism, and we can still do that and address these things, but it needs to be done up front, in front of the public, with votes by the school board.
Point of order, please. Mr. Fitzpatrick, I can't believe you just said that you agreed with me. That was awesome.
I take it all back.
I just wanted to throw that in there because he didn't really quite say it, but I heard it.
So, I mean, I think that is something we can look at. That doesn't mean, by the way, that I'm going to vote for anything
Right.
other than giving it back. It means it ought to be discussed at a board level with decisions made by the board as to what's the best use of this money, and weighing the interest of the community that has to pay the bills and the needs of the district, which is what we do as a board on a daily basis. So I won't belabor any farther, but I do have a motion when it comes time to have a motion, and I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Okay.
Good luck following that.
Yeah.
Okay, pretty much what he said. No. I pretty much agree. I mean, I don't disagree with Mr. Fitzpatrick, but I'm definitely on the same wavelength as Ms. Bashaw with regard to being kind of conflicted and wanting to do some of these improvements, the auditorium especially. I was here when my kids were actually in the very first play they did, Annie, when the high school opened. And it was, you know, the high school, our auditorium is a tremendous asset, and we really should take steps to preserve that. And so, but I am a little nervous about the increase of $1.2 million. So I'm kind of conflicted. I don't like doing the end of the year spending spree. Nobody I mean, well, the public tends to not like that at all. So I do think transparency and discussing those items ahead of time. I agree with Mr. Fitzpatrick that we should discuss as much as possible prior to the end of the year, you know, and just sort of so I'm not sure that's provides a lot of information, but I'm just gonna say I'm very nervous about the end result of our budget total of 37 million. So I'd be interested to hear what Mr. Fitzpatrick has to propose.
So I looked at the budget fairly extensively, and I'm not happy about the 1.2 million either. But I looked at what it's made up of, and we had a teacher's contract, that 3-year contract that passed, a professional staff contract, which goes up about $500,000 a year. So that's being spent this year, and it's in next year's budget. So 500,000 this year, that continues, and another 500,000 next year is $1 million.
Mhm.
So you take that, and then you take healthcare and utilities and supplies and maintenance, and you're up $1,217,537.
Mhm.
I think the administration has done a good job of trimming in the areas that they could. And we have to continue to watch the dollars, and we do have to keep an eye on the facilities and fund those needs as they're needed, but we need to do that smartly. We don't want to get into a situation where we've got a facilities plan like we had a few years ago that was unfundable.
Yeah.
So we have to be realistic about how we apply the monies that we have and monies that we have left over. But that's all I have to say.
All right, and last but not least,
Oh, don't forget Heather.
oh, that's right, Heather. Here, I
Hi,
keep
Heather.
forgetting. Sorry.
Okay. So I agree with as what everyone said. I'm definitely conflicted about the high number. It's probably the highest that we've had in a few years due to the fiscal conservative of the board. But I do agree that we cannot ignore things and let things fall into disrepair, which is a long history of what has happened previously. So I agree with Mr. Fitzpatrick where we should have quotes and we should have plans and we should work towards how are we going to pay for those things in the long run, because $75,000 to fix the track now is significantly cheaper than $250,000. But I do want to make sure that we have a budget that will pass so we can support our teachers and our students.
All right, now that I'm really last, I mean, I really echo the sentiments of everyone here. You know, I think we're all, for the most part, we're all pretty much on the same page, which is nice, and it makes it very easy to work together, because I think we all have very similar goals, and that is to be fiscally conservative, but also make sure that the students, teachers, staff are all taken care of. We can educate our children appropriately. So, you know, again, like everyone has said, you know, it is a higher budget, but there are legitimate reasons for that. We can't trim a lot of that out. It's contractual. And like Tammy said, I would be very curious to hear what Jamie's proposal is. So we're all kind
Yeah,
of
I'd
waiting
just
for
like to
that.
add something.
Yes, yeah.
In that regard, I do think that if we can make some room here between the default and the proposed, that would be a smart thing to do.
Yep.
Because otherwise, who knows what's going to pass?
All right. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
What a surprise.
I'd like to move to reduce the proposed budget by $50,000. And if I can get a second, I will discuss my rationale.
Second for discussion.
Okay. Discussion.
So I went back and forth on this. I mean, I looked at numbers where I was going to say, I want to cut $500,000 out. And I have been a bit of a pain in the neck, and my two gentlemen on the right will say, well, a heck of a lot more than a bit, and trying to get information and try to understand exactly what's in here. Because I don't like spending money. Everybody knows me, I'm cheap. I don't like spending money. But if I got to, because it makes sense, I'll do that, but I need to understand why it is. And so I got off from the arbitrary number of $500,000 by looking at the data and going through the different numbers. So why am I coming up with 50,000 and where do I think I can get it? So the reason I'm coming up with 50,000 is I really think we need daylight between the two sets of numbers. I fear that people will select the wrong one as they're rushing through their ballots. I don't think $50,000 impedes the intent of the budget, purpose of the budget, or any programs in the budget. I'm talking about 0.1% change. If one was trying to really cut a budget, you do a little bit more than 0.1%. I've been in the business world for a long time. There's no budget that's ever been created that can't handle a 0.1% change. These are estimates, and this should not impact in any way, shape, or form. So I could propose, but I'm not, as to where exactly you need to take it from. I believe that's really the administration's perspective, but it'd be negligent of me not to share some ideas of perhaps where it might come from. So to me, there's 4 accounts that I think easily can get you the 50,000. If you have different ideas, I'm completely fine with that. But I would address your attention to supplies, transportation, health, and furniture. I think if you focused on those areas, I think you'll find that you can easily come up with $50,000. And we are going to have some tightness in some of these areas. I actually will say out loud, I agree with the superintendent's statement that we probably need a reserve for unanticipated inflationary pressures. If some of the things that are being talked about in Washington come to fruition, there is going to be additional inflationary pressure on us. And not all of that is going to have been anticipated in the budget, and we'll have to deal with what our realities are. So I do think that makes sense from a prudence perspective. But that's my rationale for my proposal. I'm glad to entertain any questions or challenges to that, but I think that it makes sense, and it gives us a number of a proposed a default budget of 37,232, 635 versus a default a default budget of 37,232, 635 versus a new proposed of 37,179, 463.
Would you like to hear from the administration about the proposed reduction?
Yes.
Sure.
I think the best way to put it is I don't like it, but I can live with it. It's $50,000. Jamie's right. Like you look, we're talking about a $37 million budget. 2 people accepting health insurance, moving from single. I'm sorry, 4 people moving from single to full family is $50,000. So we can make the budget work with a $50,000 difference. I think Jamie's right that those 4 accounts are logical places to look at. And he asked me some questions about this proposal today, and and transparency is super important. So I want to be clear that I told him, no way, I don't like this. No, I'm just kidding. I just said, I understand, because there is a philosophy to getting the proposed budget to pass because the accounts are appropriately aligned and the money isn't where it's supposed to be. And that difference on the warrant does make a difference. I feel a lot better if we do a warrant article or two to continue to grow those reserves or have money. I'm not just worried about the unanticipated inflation for expenses. I'm also worried about the unanticipated associated costs if the pre-K becomes a reality. The universal pre-K. I don't think it's going to happen for next September now. In August, I thought it was happening for next September. Right? So I think we probably got a year at this point because it took so long, but it has not been cut out of any budget. No matter how hard they're cutting. It's not, they're not even talking about universal pre-K coming out. It's just not even on the table. So I'm not a prophet. I don't know, but I'm watching it way closer than I've ever watched any federal level discussion. And anyone that I'm talking to that's involved in policy at that level is saying, yeah, it's probably going to be in there. So I feel really okay with reducing the 50,000 in light of the conversation about looking at year-end funds and possibly funding some of these other things at the year end. And combining that with some warrant articles, I think we'll be fine.
You want to add?
I'm okay with the $50,000 cut. I'm actually excited about the idea of creating another capital reserve fund for any item that may exceed our budget expectations, such as heating oil, because then what I can do is I can build a smoother budget and smooth out the tax rate and use the capital reserve fund for any or I don't want to say unforeseen, but any estimate that came in or actual that came in above estimate when we built the budget. It would just make budgeting so much more easy.
Our goal is to equalize the blood sugar and the tax rate.
Yes.
Spikes and valleys are not good for communities. And COVID has created a lot of return for the communities. And as the budget is settled and tightened up over the years, the returns at the end of the year will decrease, which means that perception of taxes being increased, even though the budget isn't moving as much, will happen. When Jamie said that the tax rate in Kingston was lower at $15, part of that was the return that the school district gave last year. It was a significant sum of money, $2.3 million. That will not be happening again this year. We're having normal school. It just won't happen organically. So being able to equalize, flatten out the budget and have reserves for those emergencies, we've worked hard on this. And I just want the community to hear that the board has worked really hard to build people's trust, to build those funds so that we can stabilize the tax rate. That's the real goal. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if the administration doesn't have a problem with it, I don't have a problem. I look at the budget in a sense as things we control, things we don't control. When I look at things we don't control are the warrant articles for salary increases. We negotiate with them and everything, but then the people vote on them. So I agree that, you know, the budget's gone up to 1.2 over the last couple of years, but most of it's salaries. And when you get into salaries, you get into Social Security. So if I give $1 salary to someone, I'm also increasing their Social Security, their workman's comp, their retirement. So it's I think it's 7%, I think, on the retirement. And then it's another 6 point something percent on Social Security. And then it's workman's comp. So before you know it, it's 20%. We don't control those.
When you add in healthcare, it's about.
Well, the healthcare is not a percentage of their hourly rate. That's you know.
Right, but it's still.
But usual costs are running around 30% over the salary when it comes to Social Security working comp. So I think we're doing a very good job.
Yeah.
You know, of being fiscally responsible. We've gone down. I mean, I don't know if there's any school districts in the state where it's gone down 34 cents. It's 30, I wrote it down here somewhere, but 34, 36 cents. Yeah, 36 cents. That's a hell of a job. Nobody can complain, in my opinion. If they do, they really don't know what they're talking about, because their tax is less this year than last year on their tax rate for running the school, so pretty good. So I'm beating my gums here, but I guess really what I'm saying is I'm done. If they're going to live with it and say it was 50,000, it's like, yeah, okay. On 37 million,
Right.
So I'll support that. I have absolutely no problem with 0.01%.
Any further discussion?
Move the motion.
All right. So since we have Heather on Zoom, we will do a roll call vote. All right, we'll start with Heather.
I agree with the motion.
Sorry.
Yes.
We agreeing to,
Just a motion.
Voting
right?
to
Jamie.
reduce by 5, to adopt the budget.
Next
reduce
will be the
by
budget.
50,000.
Yes.
wait, next will be the budget?
Well, then we have to make a motion on the budget.
So why don't we get a firm number and approve that?
If
Okay,
you're
thank you.
Having two votes, why do we have?
We
Because his motion was cut 50,000, wasn't it? Was it to cut the 50,000 or was it to put the budget at that amount?
I think it was both, Pete. Let's clarify the
Well, it
motion.
can't be both. You got to be one or the other.
Well,
So the way that I said it leaves interpretation.
it does.
The intent was that we would subtract $50,000 from the current proposal with the new budget amount being 37,179,463.
Okay, so that's your motion to make the budget 37,179,463.
Yeah, if I can get a re-second on that, just to
Yes,
make sure
I-
that's
Okay, all right. So
And my second,
So you're voting to adopt the budget of 37 million.
179,463.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So why are we having a second vote after?
We don't have to now. We
Have
just
to
fixed
now.
I
it.
clarified the motion.
Fix
I
now.
thought his motion was on the 50,000.
We just fixed it.
and
Good
we-
job, Maura.
But
Like you caught it. I'm glad you brought it up.
You see where I'm coming from?
I get where you're
Yep.
from.
All right. So can we go back to Heather?
Yes. So Heather,
Yes.
Yes.
Maura,
No.
Jamie,
Yes.
Tammy,
yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and myself, yes.
You lose.
I understand what
Right.
Maura
I see where you're coming.
All right, Heather, thank you so very much for taking the time out. I know it was not easy. We really appreciate you showing up and
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
go relax.
I have a point of order, or I think it's a point of order. So do we want to give direction to
This-
the budget committee,
this-
a representative to the budget committee for how to represent the budget amount that we just voted on tomorrow night?
That would be a great.
I mean,
idea.
I've been in that position and it's really helpful. I don't think I've had that guidance and
It would be
was
helpful.
Very helpful
Helpful.
So
to me.
you want me to do that, Tammy, or do you want to?
We'll need a motion, wouldn't we?
No. What we're doing is giving Maura some guidance about the role of her position as joint member of the school board and the budget committee. So the board just adopted a budget, and your job as the budget committee representative from the school board is to go and support that.
Right.
It's tricky because you voted no on it.
And I understand, I understand the position where it was just a 6-1 vote, but I don't feel like I'm far off from where all of you stand.
No.
So I
yeah.
think it was a hard decision for me to make my decision. So I think I very much understand where all of you are coming from. And I feel as though I can go, I understand exactly where Jamie's coming from. And I feel like I can explain to the budget committee what the feelings were, because I understand them. It's not, I'm not, you guys aren't all this way and I'm all the way over here. That was a hard decision for me to make. So I think I can go and support what you guys have said.
Well, the thing is that as you're representing the school board,
Yeah.
I think what she's saying is she's not going to have a hard time going in and
And supporting it.
I can go in and support what the school board just said.
Right, but when the budget committee votes on a budget, we've got to figure this out because I think normally the school board representative would vote in the congruence of the board.
right. So you will have to vote yes.
You
Okay.
theoretically you would.
Well, you might have to vote no, depending on.
Or
what-
no.
So
Or
depending
no.
on Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect
Let
tomorrow.
me work on that and get
I-
back to you.
I don't know what the
That's
budget.
messy.
I don't know what the budget committees, I mean, the budget committee could vote to increase the budget.
Right.
For all I know, that's what's gonna happen tomorrow.
I think it's kind of like the parliamentary system. Inside here, we'll argue, but once it's set,
Right.
all members follow the line.
Right.
So you will support, even though you disagree with it, you will
Right.
support the majority and the vote. What might happen tomorrow as far as the budget committee? Well, that's where we trust you to say, well, wait a minute, all right, but on this particular 50,000, you support it because we
So-
voted for it, even though you personally don't, but who knows? The budget committee might sit there and say, we're gonna cut it 10 million, or we're gonna add 10 million, and that's when that's a whole different animal. It's not the
Yeah.
50,000.
Now, what if the budget committee brings to light something tomorrow that wasn't brought to light today? What if somebody comes to the budget committee tomorrow and says something that we didn't talk about?
So we've had that happen before.
Does it
Okay.
change the budget?
Well, and I don't even mean change, like,
Then it would come back to
they
us.
might come up with this great reason why we need to edge the budget that we didn't discuss tonight, that is maybe new evidence.
Yep.
But
that
we
we
only
didn't have.
voted on this. That's what we voted on.
Mhm.
So if that's the case, it would come back to us.
It comes back to you to vote
The
again.
But
In
Maura's
1
question
year.
is, she's going to be expected to vote. She's a member of that committee. And so.
Well,
they're
she can
going to
vote
propose
the
a
way she
number.
wants on that tomorrow.
Well, that's the question. What is our guidance to her? Should she, or should she support our number regardless of what is proposed at the budget committee?
Yeah, Maura has to vote for the 37,
That's right.
179, 463.
Because that's what we,
If there's any other number, she has to vote no.
right.
And then it will.
Then it comes
if
back
it-
to
if
us.
they pass it with
passes,
a
then
majority
it-
vote,
Right.
it will come back to us, and then we'll hear the reasons behind
Interesting.
why they're thinking that new number is the right number, and then we get to re-deliberate with
So
that new.
this is an
It's a
exceptionally
little- it's a
unique
little more
situation.
Confusing than that, really, because what can happen is, and it's never happened that I know of, what can happen is really, you can have two different budgets going forward. Okay, one from the school committee, one from the budget committee. That's never happened. We've always been
No,
able
it does
to
happen.
No,
together.
It
but-
did happen
no.
when Corey Mason was chairman.
Did it really? I don't,
Yeah.
okay, but anyway.
So hold on. Let me just tell.
We've
let me-
never had to go
let-
that
let me-
far, and I'm not gonna worry about
I'll,
it.
I'll talk to Will Phillips at NHSBA tomorrow
Okay,
and call you
okay.
Yeah.
so that you have like attorney-based guidance about what you're, because I don't want anyone in the public to perceive this as the board is telling Maura how to vote unless, what we're saying is that
Representing the school.
she's
board.
representing
we're
the school board. That's correct.
But what's the point of me sitting there and listening and participating if I can't
Well, I need
even
to,
understand?
so-
If
so-
I'm basically being told, you're gonna go in there with a predetermined vote. Whatever conversation happens there doesn't matter. You're
That's
going
right.
to vote. That's basically what I'm saying. And understand, I don't really disagree with you guys. It's,
Well,
you know,
that's,
I'm,
that's the
I'm not gonna
RSA.
go over there. Oh my God, I can't.
Yeah,
believe
let-
this," you know?
No.
it's
no,
just-
Not
it-
in that boat. I'm just
But
saying.
that's the RSA, Maura.
But
That's
that's,
the
but that's
job.
what we
No.
have voted on.
Maura's not disagreeing with that. She just wants real concrete legal guidance from an attorney as to what her directive is, which I think it's a unique situation because we've never had someone on the board be the school board rep to the BudCom that voted no on our adopted budget.
Right.
Oh, really? We have?
But you,
We have?
you
Okay,
voice.
I'll look that up. I have never had that.
Voice the vote of the school committee. So tomorrow, the vote of the school committee was this. If they change that, all right, you're bound to this number.
That's what I thought.
With the committee, all right,
Board.
The board.
the board, it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
school committee.
Don't want people
Right.
getting
Okay,
confused.
the school committee voted that amount. That cannot be changed now.
Right.
Okay, that's been voted on, can't be changed. If they change it, you come back to us and say, hey, guess what? They changed it. And then we talk about, well, they only changed this or they changed that, and then we vote again. Usually, we're in agreement.
Well, and what we
Never
did,
Not been in
one,
agreement.
one year we had to have a joint meeting between it was so bad that we had to have a joint meeting between the board and
Yeah,
BudCom
If
again.
you don't mind seeking legal, if we can.
I'll double check.
I'm not disagreeing. I do know last year there was, I mean, it was definitely brought up of what is supposed to happen. And I'm not looking to go against what the school board said. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, That's right.
I think we're really all on the same page. I voted a different way, but we're pretty much on the same page. I think maybe it were some of the questions that led up to some of the things, and maybe it was after there were, I feel like maybe it was there were individual votes of, oh, we want to put 2 pairs back in. And then it seemed like it was, because I feel like there wasn't just the one big vote. I feel like there were little votes in between to get to the certain amount.
Yeah, and I can't
That's-
remember.
That's
everything
kind
that was-
of where
yeah.
I think
Yeah, she's right.
I get in the
Yeah.
weeds a little bit with that. So
That's why I brought it up
That's-
because. you
yeah,
know,
no, I,
Yeah, you've been there. It's an uncomfortable situation.
Decision on this, it's good to have some guidance.
And-
some-
and no, I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yes.
And, you know, I will, if that's how I'm supposed to vote, I don't have an issue with it, and I'll just let it be known. This is what I've been instructed to do,
Yeah.
and this is how I will be
You don't even have
voting.
to say
And
that.
You just say it's the will of the
School
board.
Committee voted for. it.
No, but
Yes.
I'm gonna make it more clear than that. I will
you
say,
will.
I've been instructed, you know, this is how
Well, they
this,
should know
this
that.
is how, no, I don't think that's clear.
It's not always.
Really?
I don't think
Yeah.
that it's clear.
No, it's not.
I don't.
Really?
So I will make it clear.
Wasn't last
This
year.
is
Wasn't it?
legally what my role is. This is how I will vote,
Yeah.
and then there
Well,
can't
that's
be
fine,
any.
but- See, that's one of the difference between the town and the school. The town goes to budget seminars. Whereas school
Right.
board budget people, I don't think they've ever been to these.
Well, they have them.
Taught
through the
that stuff.
NHSBA.
Listen, and appreciate that Tammy brought it up, because I do think I should let it be known what my role is tomorrow night. And it probably is a mountain out of a molehill, because listen, if they try to add $250,000 to the budget, which I think that they're more likely to add more to the budget than take away, I would vote no for that.
Right.
So the probability of it happening is not, I don't think it's that great, but it just would be nice to go into it knowing, okay, any of these little conversations of we want to add 2 paras, this is how I'm to vote. That's all.
What we want to have is at the bottom of the warrant, recommended by school board, recommended by budget committee.
Mhm.
You know, that's the ideal. That's why I always try to hash these up. I'll come to a joint agreement.
All right.
Thank you,
So-
Tammy, for bringing it up.
Yes,
And
thank you.
I just remember the Zoom call meeting, it being a mess, and
It was a
Annie
mess.
clearly
Very
recollects the time when that
uncomfortable.
happened, and I can't remember now. It's hard. So I just want to make sure that for more being in this
and-
position that we have good guidance for, I'm emailing Will now.
And I mean, I will, like I said, we're pretty much on the same page. So
I wouldn't get anxious over it. It's a standard, normal, happens every year thing.
yeah.
All right.
Thank
When
you.
you are done emailing Will,
Yeah, I'm
we
good.
can move on to policies.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to, again, we've kind of gone around and around about these, and I had some notes for you all to help us move forward this evening. I did speak to Mr. Phillips, and with regard to policy BBBE. So I'm going to share the information that I got in questions, and we can make some amendments if we need to. In general, the NHSBA's read on the law for BBBE, which is the election of filling of an empty seat for a position on the school board, is that it happens in public, but the reality is that you can't always have all the deliberations in public because it could damage one of the candidates' reputation. So Will admitted that it is kind of gray. So I think that the key word in this is likely, right? So the part that was brought to my attention with the question was the remaining board members deliberate in non-public and then come into public and vote. And I do think that in practice is what happens, because it's almost impossible to deliberate in public without likely damaging someone's reputation. But I don't think that we necessarily need to change the wording, because it says likely, and that covers us. So if I know that I'll defer to Jamie if he feels like some of the wording on this needs to be switched some. He brought me the question, and it was a really good question, because the policy reads very clearly, the only possible exception could be limited discussion regarding a potential candidate wherein that part of the discussion is likely to adversely affect. And I feel like that covers almost all of the discussion. We could amend this to say that the discussion regarding the candidates would happen in non-public because such discussion would be likely to adversely affect. We could make it less restrictive. The language is pretty, interprets the rule to be that you should discuss it in public as much as possible. I just don't see how that can happen and be successful when you're basically putting someone into in a position. So I am certainly fine if the board wants to change it, but I think that the language that's been proposed, because it says likely, covers you. So Jamie, I'll defer to you on this question.
Yeah,
You'd like
so-
to propose an amendment?
Yeah, first, just a quick background on it. I was involved when we had a opening when Dr. Brown left the board. And we reached out to Barrett Christina and also the New Hampshire School Board Association. His advice was absolutely you would do that in deliberative. And the reason why is, so let's say that 2 years from now, an opening comes up and I want to get on the board and people want to make a decision as to whether letting me on a board. They might want to have a discussion about, geez, he's a cantankerous old SOB and I don't want him on the board. He doesn't play nice with other people. He does this or that. You don't want to say those types of things or consider those types of things in public. That's not right to the person that's being considered. So in my mind, you need to have that option and that ability to do that. My only concern, so my concern was, one is, can we get clarification? Because one NHSBA person is saying one thing and another saying another thing.
Yeah,
So
lawyers.
clearly that demonstrates it's gray.
Yes, yes.
And so I would, as a likely to, I would, in my mind, it should be, if in the opinion of the deciding board members that it is necessary to go into deliberative, then they can.
Or to go into non-public.
Yeah, excuse me, to go into non-public, then they can. Because if the standard of it's likely going to be something that affects your reputation, then somebody else can say, well, I don't think that was likely. And I want to know what you talked about because I don't think it's likely. But if you say it's if in the opinion of the responsible board members, it's necessary to, because of their belief that might adversely impact the reputation, then they can go into non-public. Maybe it's a slight nuance, but the likely to me leads to, now you have to prove that it's likely, and you're making a subjective estimation. You don't know that it really is going to or not going to. But you have to make that subjective decision as the members that are making the decision.
So why don't we do this, Jamie? We'll
But it might 2 cents here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it should be, all deliberations should be a non-public. You start down the road that, on this one, we're going to non-public, then we want to,
Yeah.
oh, gee, they're going to non-public on this one about that guy. Oh, there must be something they know, what's going on here. And to tell you the truth, and I think speaking for me, and I think you'll all agree, I don't like mincing words. If I think Jamie's a son of a bitch, I may say that, right?
You
I want to
usually
be
do.
able to, yeah, and I have, right? No, but you see what I'm saying? But I've said it to him. No, but I want to be open and be able to be frank. I don't want to be playing political leaves with my language. I want to be able to discuss it and say,
Yeah.
I think this guy would be the perfect fit because I remember I was on the board with him, and boy, does he watch the dollars. I think that's great. I think that's what we need. I may take something the opposite. So I think it should be worded that you'll discuss in non-public and then announce your decision, because otherwise you're restricting. And you've got to remember this. We're making decisions today, and please always remember this, that tie future boards, right? Future boards can't all of a sudden say, oh, well, we're going to change it. They can if they have discussions and what have you. But when you make something it's likely, what's likely? Likely to me, likely to you. You know what you guys said about me at that board the other day? That affected me. I'm going to sue you guys. Well, we didn't think so because it didn't think it would likely,
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you, I wouldn't be that liberal. I would be much more restrictive.
Tammy?
My question is, do we have that latitude within the law?
It's like Jamie said, Barrett came one way and Will came another, which is super rare. So it's Barrett was more conservative, like Pete is saying, and Will interpreted it a little bit more. He developed this language. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's what I'm going to propose is that we table this for one more meeting, and I'll draw up more like clearer language, run it by Will and Jamie, and see if we can get something to bring back to you. Because I have to kind of rewrite the language to reflect what I'm hearing from the board is, yeah, we kind of generally agree that the deliberation should happen in non-public, because really you are going down a road of, you could likely, the word likely is super dangerous, and it's the way the law is written, and that's verbatim from the law. And it is open to huge interpretation. It's like you could drive a Mack truck through that. Anyone could say that something was likely to adversely affect their reputation, right? It just, I think that the balance here is, there's no question the interviews have to be in public.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yes.
The interviews have to be, that's black and white, because you have to hear the candidates' answers. But I think that the conversation about the candidates, who they're going to choose, probably will happen in non-public no matter. I think if we leave it like this, it's going to happen in non-public, because it's the safest row to hoe. Yeah, if you want to change the language, we can, but I don't know that we really have to. But I think Pete's right that if the language isn't clear, a future board in 5 years might read it a different way.
Yeah. Just another point that I would make. I like Pete's statements better than mine.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Mark it on the
Right,
calendar.
put that
It's a
in the
weird
minutes.
night.
Make sure that's in the minutes.
Is there a full moon or something?
But, one thing that we did do when Dr. Brown left the board is we came out and gave our reasons why. And I wasn't comfortable. I mean, it wasn't something, geez, this is going to be great. I get to give my reasons why.
Yeah.
But I think it's the prudent thing to do if you're making a decision. What were the drivers of your decision, so that people at least know where your head's at?
Yep.
Because you just put somebody on a board to represent somebody, and people might have an issue with that, and they should at least understand what your thought process was.
So you discussed the things that you thought might adversely impact people in non-public, and then you shared the things that you felt were appropriate in public.
Correct.
It sounds to me like you
as to why
followed the
made your
process
decision.
perfectly.
So, and I
sounds to me
believe,
like
Mr.
you
Baker,
did-
You did the same thing. You explained your decision after Dr. Brown left, right? I believe so.
Yeah, we both did.
So I think that the language that's proposed, Jamie, covers that. But it's the part that gave me a little bit of heartburn was the only possible exception could be a limited discussion regarding a potential candidate, wherein that part of the discussion is likely. It felt like Will was playing it super conservative.
And I, like I said, I think Pete did a better job than I did. In
Okay,
explaining
so-
the
Twice in the
risks.
minutes, please.
So is it the will of the group that we kind of work on this language a little bit, run it by Will Phillips one more time, and then bring it back? I'm fine with that. This is good policy work, right? We're talking. Okay, so that's what I'll do. ILBAA, I didn't have any questions. JLJCA, Jamie, you had asked about, is the intent that this will be expanded into the required plan in the future? The purpose of JLCJA is to direct the administration to develop a plan. That is the purpose of the policy. GBI,
You skipped IB.
IB.
Was that intentional?
yes, that's going to be last.
Okay.
GBI. Okay, Jamie asked about the definition of the word partisan.
Yes.
Means what?
Yeah, I mean,
Give my reason.
yeah, I think that's the best way to do this, because I don't really have a definitive
Yep.
advice for you as a board about the question.
So the basically says that partisan political activities would include the posting of political circulars or petitions, collections or solicitation, campaign funds, solicitations for campaign workers, and other activities of clearly partisan nature. So some people interpret partisan to mean it's based upon the election to come, this person versus that person, and you're doing something to help this person versus that person.
Mhm.
So that's one way something is partisan. You can also say that certain causes are partisan in our world today. So, for example, some people would say BLM is partisan. Some people would say the NRA is partisan. So under this, can I fly a BLM in my class, a flag? Can I fly an NRA flag in my class? So what exactly do we mean by partisan? So I looked it up. I said, well, what does the dictionary say partisan is? A strong supporter of a party, which would be the first definition, or a cause or a person. So a cause would be included in partisan, but I don't know that the way it's written, people would understand that you're not supposed to be promoting your political causes in school. You're supposed to be promoting academics and education, not your political causes. And that was the point that I was making. I wasn't sure when we're saying it can't be partisan, what exactly we meant by that. Is it okay for me to have an NRA sign up in my classroom? I don't know. By this, I don't know by the way it's written.
So are you proposing that I'm rereading because it's been a few days, Jamie, so it's helping me to get, if you think about, so I think that what you're proposing is that we define partisan as part of the policy.
Yeah, I think that it means you can't be promoting political causes, people, or elections in your class.
That is the purpose of the policy.
Right. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But it wasn't clear to me that really addressed that.
Classrooms should be, our academia should be politically neutral.
Should be. That doesn't mean you can't
Doesn't
talk
mean-
about politics. You talk about both
Doesn't mean
sides.
that You and I can have a debate in front of the school. That means that nobody gives their agenda, their political or whatever agenda you want to call about. You know, I mean, we had an issue a number of years ago when a teacher had Barack Obama when he was running for president. You know, it wasn't a picture of George Washington after he was president. He was running for president. There was some problems, you know, because he was obviously, you know, trying to get people to
Right.
support that. Got to remember, we have voters who are students,
Sure. Yeah.
all right? So you've got to.
Yeah, you gotta be really careful with how you-
You got to craft this very, very carefully.
But it says explicitly this. It is the intent of this policy that political activities be narrowly defined to mean only partisan political activities and influencing the vote of a voter on any question or office. So the point is partisan political activities would include the posting of political circulars or petitions, collection and or solicitation of campaign funds, solicitation for campaign workers, and other activities of a clearly partisan nature, including those activities relating to local, state, or federal elections. So then it also says nothing in this policy is to be construed as precluding discussions of contentious viewpoints, including discrimination in current events or historical subjects, or conducting mock elections, debates, conventions, or similar situated political activities where such this is the key, where such discussions or activity is primarily intended as part of a larger course of academic instruction. So if I'm going to try to answer your question, because it really boils down to this, Jeannie, which is something that I think is worth saying publicly and clearly. I know where the lines are with regard to race, bullying, harassment, and the rules for what can be discussed in school. I'm not always sure that every single employee and interaction falls within those rules. It's impossible to control hundreds of people. But if I walked into a classroom in our high school and saw an NRA sign, my question immediately, without hesitation to the teacher would be, what is the context for that sign in your instruction? Where is it linked to the standards? Where is it linked to your assessments? What is its relationship to your course of study as outlined in policy GBI? And I would expect a very clear answer. Oh, we're talking about the NRA and their relationship to whatever.
Good example would be what they used to call yellow journalism. If you're teaching a journalism course, you might have examples of yellow journalism. I think it was Hearst that said, I'll supply the war, you supply the story. You know, that was yellow
Right.
journalism.
Right.
You know,
It's a part of the
so
context
if
of the
that's
course.
part of the context, that yes, that statement's up there, but it's to show the bias of journalism. You know, that might be acceptable.
So I have no problem with adding to this policy a statement saying, for the purpose of this policy, partisan is defined as a noun, a strong supporter of a party, cause, or person. I have no problem with that. Practically, as an administrator, I'm fine with the way the policy is written because I know its intent and I know what I'm supposed to do. And I don't feel like my team is very clear. And I don't feel like there's any hole in here that someone could walk through to do whatever they want, but they will certainly try. And they'll find ways to push on it. If the board feels that adding a definition of partisan would support the policy, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't feel like personally that we need it to administer the policy in the district, but it does clarify. Anytime you put it, I mean, you could put definitions through all of these policies for all kinds of terms. You could have a glossary. I mean, please don't do that. We don't need it. But I do think it's worth the conversation, Jamie. But I think it's, when you take the whole policy together in context as a group, it's clear enough. That's my opinion, but it's up to you guys. So I guess my question is, do you want to add a definition for partisan, or do you feel like it's clear enough with the language that I just read? It's up to you.
Well, to make it official, I'd like to make a motion that we add a definition of partisan to the policy.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All right, discussion or any further discussion? All right, since Heather is not here, we can do hand raise. All in favor?
Perfect. Thank you.
Unanimous.
Yep, we'll add it. Great. That was easy.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. So JICC, Jamie just brought up a couple of continued should be a lowercase c.
Oh, yes.
Nothing big. It was just some edits. We can take care of those later.
And a comma change.
Yeah, and a comma change. But they don't change the intent. It's just grammatical stuff.
Right.
Sometimes a comma can change the intent, and in this instance, it does not. JICCR, Jamie recommended that he would add a bullet that says students shall treat people on the bus with kindness and decency. I would also have this bullet before all the bullets saying the things you can't do. So, and I just said, I'm fine with discussing that change. So Jamie, can you clarify that? Because we don't want to add students shall treat all people on the bus with kindness and decency, like just once, right?
Yeah. So all I'm trying to say is there's so many things that we try to quantify and bring down to you can't do this, you can't do that. In the end, if everybody would just treat everybody else with kindness and decency, you wouldn't have any of these bloody problems.
Right. He put a positive spin on it.
We have a whole lot of things as to what you can't do, you can't do, you can't do. I just thought it'd be nice to have something. This is what you should do. You should treat everybody with kindness and decency.
So could we have a motion to add that to the policy?
So moved.
Second.
It's under behavioral expectations and rules.
Yes.
It's under
Yeah.
letter A.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
All right.
Okay, thank you. There was an edit. It said bought and it should be but under second referral. BUT, just for the record. Sorry. In section B, there are two different and distinct disciplinary measures for violations of expectations, 2 through 16. There should only be one. I don't understand why there are two sets of definitions of the consequences, both listed as referrals 1, 2, and 3. Jamie, I don't think that I answered that question, sir. I'm sorry. I answered almost all of these questions, but I think I might have missed one. Could you clarify that so that we can make any change?
So yeah, there's two sets of, it says in one paragraph above, it says the first referral, this is going to happen. The second referral, this is going to happen. The third referral, this is going to happen. In the paragraph below it, it says on the first referral, something different is going to happen. On the second referral, something different is going to happen. And on the third referral, something different is going to happen.
Is that because it was a different infraction though on the third?
Not that I could read, so I wasn't sure.
Okay.
When I read it, it said, it seemed to be saying this because the word as to if you do this was basically the same word if you do this.
Okay.
So it wasn't clear to me which one.
I'll take
was
a
the
quick
one
look.
that we
I'm
wanted to be
sorry.
in the policy.
I missed that mistake. Can you go on to your next question, Jamie, and I'll hit that right now.
Yeah, the next question was just there was an error. There was a D that belonged on discipline for grammar.
Okay, we'll fix that. No problem.
So back to the other, it looks like
Do you have it up
there are
there?
there are references. The following will generally apply to violations of expectations 2 through 16. They both say that.
They both say
And
that.
probably the second one should say, a 17 through 23.
It
Right.
could be. I'm not sure.
I think it was just misnoted in
Yeah.
which violations are
That would be
being
what I would-
handled which way.
because the
Because
second set of
there's
referrals is
there's
more-
nothing for 1 and then 17 through 23.
I'm going to now. So it was letter B.
Oh, and not 1, 2. Is it 1?
Although I would not add 17 to the bottom. The
Yeah,
second
one
set of referrals are
definitely.
more stringent, and I don't think not sitting
Yeah,
three in
yeah.
your seat probably fits that.
Yeah, so it would have to be 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So yeah, 18 through 23.
And maybe include 17 in the top section, 2 through 17 instead of 2 through 16.
Right.
Okay, so could you make a motion, Tammy? Because I think you've got it.
Yes, I move to change the language under letter B to say the first set of referrals should apply to violations of expectations 2 through 17.
Aha, got it.
And the second set of referrals should be 18 through 23.
Got it. Thank you.
Now I understand.
That was a motion, so.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor? Great.
Okay, so the last one,
He was just a little late.
it's okay. The last one was about disciplines and or I'm sorry, there's one more. Page 4, section C. As Matt Angel had noted, because we had some notes in there, doesn't appear to be any ability to appeal to the superintendent for a suspension decision. My answer to that is yes. The principal makes decisions about bus suspensions. It stays at the principal level. Busing is a privilege, not a right. And if you're not behaving on the bus, I'm not going to overturn them anyway. Because I wasn't there, I didn't do the investigation. And by the time it gets to my office for a referral, for an appeal, it's most likely that the suspension will have been handed. It's usually 2 or 3 days. I'm not going to have a meeting with the family and have an appeal for 2 or 3 days. And their suspension is going to stand until it gets to my desk. So you can't really have an appeal process for something that's already, it doesn't make any sense to have an appeal process.
So the only point was, but there is an appeal process to the board,
Oh, wait, okay. Let me see.
but not to the, but not to the superintendent.
It should just stay right at the principal.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
It just-
yeah.
I wasn't sure why you were taking yourself out of before it goes to the board, because normally it would go to you before it goes to the board.
I'm calling Will Phillips tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Was that under C, Jamie?
Yes, it is. It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Too many things
Fifth
open.
paragraph.
I think all decisions of disciplinary can be appealed to the board. And using the chain of command, it would be jumping you.
To go to the board, but I think that for bus infractions,
Well, do they have the right to appeal to the board?
I don't think they do.
I mean, it's
'Cause-
written in here. that
Ooh,
they
I don't
do.
know.
And let's clarify.
I said they don't, that's fine.
All right, I want to talk to Will a little bit more about that one, because I want that to say this, the principal has the authority. Principals have the authority to suspend kids from school without an appeal. It's just academics. Like, once it's been done there, I just want to make sure we understand appeal. You can appeal anything to me. People can come and see me about anything that's going on in the schools. But the likelihood that something's going to be overturned, particularly that's already been given out in hand and done, is very low. So how do I overturn a 3-day bus suspension when I meet with them on the end of the 3rd day? They've already been suspended for 3 days. The decision of the principal holds until I overturn it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't, when people are suspended from school, and they say to me, we want to meet with you immediately. Well, if I'm not available for scheduling reasons, I'm sorry. You clearly there was a behavior problem and they investigated it. I trust my people. They investigated it and they did the work to make the decision to suspend you. I trust them enough to know that we can hear, like, if it's a 10-day suspension and they want to meet with me, I might be able to get it in by day 4 or 5, just from a scheduling perspective. and they might get some relief for the other 5 days, but you have to understand, for that to happen, it means that I'm saying to the principal they didn't do their job, because when it comes to me, it's not about whether or not the discipline was appropriate. It's about whether or not the principal and administrator did their job. So when I overturn that, I'm telling the administrator they didn't do their job. It's really putting the administrator on under the scrutiny of my office. See, a lot of people don't understand that. They think that they can just get it overturned. Well, getting a discipline thing overturned by the superintendent means the principal or assistant principal didn't do their job. So it's super unlikely that I'm going to do that publicly. So
I think that's important, what you just said, because at the first I heard you saying, I'm not going to overturn him. But now you're saying, and I can just see this being used in court.
yeah, thanks, Pete. That's really
Okay.
good. Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
I'm never going to overturn it, bang, right?
Yeah. Then you get it. Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying, it's highly unlikely because they will have done their due diligence.
Exactly.
All right. But
Exactly.
my concern is you get a Philadelphia lawyer and all of a sudden it's, I didn't have my due process. I
right.
was not able to go to the superintendent. Okay, so because these would be so rare anyway,
Yeah.
I would probably suggest that, yes, keep it in, they go to the superintendent so that they can go to the school board, because I can see a sea lawyer, as they call them in the Navy, right? Saying, oh, no, you didn't get due process. You get a superintendent, and you've got more of a McGilla than if you just say, come on up, I'll listen, I'll make a decision.
Always.
Whatever you want to do, but you know how people are today with due process and legalese, and it might be better for you to just leave it alone and say, yeah, you can appeal to me and then you can appeal to the board. But I've already done my 3-day suspension. Yep. Sorry about that.
So Jamie, let's figure out a proposal here. Let's just do this now and get it done. We're almost done.
To me, if structurally, in my mind, you do not want somebody to have codified in policy a right to appeal to a board that bypasses a superintendent.
Absolutely. I agree.
So if there's going to be an appeal, in my mind, it goes through you first, then to the board. If you're going to say there's not going to be an appeal and it's the principal, that's a different statement. I don't have a particular problem with that. But if everything else they have a right of appeal on, and it's going to be so rare anyways, I just follow that same process. But it shouldn't come to the board before you've had a chance to weigh in on it. Because our first question is going to be, well, Tom, what did you think?
Well, now, yeah. And what I want to do is ask Will, does it even have to go to the board? Because a lot of things don't go to the board.
Right.
They stop at my desk.
But you've got to, again, realize.
I know, we got to make sure.
After us, you've
Right.
got the courts.
Right.
And the first thing that the lawyer is going to say is he did not get his due process. The courts are going to say, yes, go back to the superintendent.
All right. I'm gonna
Oh.
call Will and ask him about this and bring this back to you.
Yeah.
Great discussion. Great questions. It's weird because some things can go to the board and some things don't.
Yeah.
And I have to sometimes ask, is this one of those things? Because sometimes policies are old and they've changed. Do you know what I'm saying? We got to be very careful with that. So my feeling as a human being is that the right to appeal to another level is always healthy for an organization, for people.
Again, to me, it's what's rule number one.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I taught you that when you
Yep.
first year of school, right?
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I'm good with that. So I'll do a little bit more work on this one. We'll vote on it again in 2 weeks.
All
Should
right.
be pretty quick.
Do you need us to vote on, because I don't believe we voted on ILBAA, JLCJA,
Thank you, Dawn.
or JICC, and we didn't get to IB.
We were going to do IB next. So I was going to do that and then have you vote on the ones that you're ready for tonight and then take a look at the other ones at the next meeting.
Okay.
So IB, Jamie just brought up a good point. He brought up the point that the number 4 and 5, violation of the section by an educator shall be considered a violation of the educator code of conduct and justifies disciplinary sanction by the State Board of Education. And he also said, for the purposes of this section, the educator means a professional employee of any school district whose position requires certification by the state board pursuant to the RSA, administrators, specialists, and teachers. So I am fine with that, but I just want to say one thing about it. If you want to add those in, you need to also add in a statement that says, this policy applies to any employee of the Sanborn Regional School District. Because I don't want someone who's not an educator to do something or say something
Yep.
that then it violate what the language says that Jamie proposed, which is totally fine. It just says violation of this section by an educator
And all I did.
or any other employee
Can
is
can
what I would amend it to.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in for a
Yeah,
second?
go for it. You can take it. Yeah.
So, I'm completely fine with what you said. Makes total sense to me.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't propose the language. That's the language of the law. That's what the RSA says.
Yeah.
And it just seems to me if we're going to have a policy saying educators can't do something because the law says you can't do it, we should also include the section of the law that says what are the ramifications if you do it anyway. And that's in the law saying these are the ramifications. And this is kind of like the, I don't know, control, you could be in trouble if you do this outside of just the district. You could be in trouble legally. Teachers should know that this is the law and you're subject to certification issues.
Well, not only that, but here's my question on that. You talked about certification, right? I'm not worried about the custodian saying something, get something, but I am concerned about a para who gets frustrated with a kid, teaching the kid and says something. They're not certified. That doesn't cover them.
I would,
Well, I like the answer, all employees.
I like all employees.
Yeah, I'm,
I am
That's why
actually
you put
worried.
in all employees,
Right.
because I believe we could be more restrictive than the law, but we can't be less restrictive.
You got it.
than
And that's exactly where I went. Yep.
yeah, I have no problem with that at all. That makes all the sense in the world to me.
Okay, so what I would do is ask the board for someone to amend the policy to add letter 4. And Jamie, where did you want to put that in
Can
there?
I add one other thing?
Yep.
Because they're not employees of the school district. But I would say also contractual employees, like a bus driver, who all of a sudden hauls off and does something.
They are technically considered to be employees because we employ the bus company. But yes, yeah,
I didn't know that, but you see
Yeah.
where I'm coming from,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. We don't have the authority to necessarily dismiss them, but we do have the authority to say that we don't want X person driving bus in our district. They could give them a job somewhere else, but they won't work for us. So I think that I think that the question, Jamie, I have for you is, would you like to make a motion as to where to put this in the policy, the location? Well, oh, great.
No, I'd have to go back and read to say, where does it
Might
make
have
sense to
certify-
drop it in?
certify teacher and all others.
Yeah, sure. I can take a look right now. I just thought you might know already because it was.
No, I mean, where it shows up in the law, it's got the 4, and then it's got the statement about this doesn't preclude you from doing these other things. So probably right after the statement that says it doesn't preclude you from doing these other things
Okay.
would be my guess. I don't have it in front of me. I just have the
Why don't you, just to save time, why don't you put that one on your burner and we'll talk about it the next time. It's a simple fix.
should be, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just bring it back to you with it addressed. That's fine. It'll take 5 minutes and I'll do it tomorrow.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just like to thank the policy committee. This is the one that I kind of had a hot button issue on a few whiles back, and I asked, could we get into this pretty quickly? And I amended my motion, and I appreciate the policy committee jumping on this right away. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so do we want to move, and correct me if I'm wrong here? Are we doing, we tabled BBBE, correct? Because we were going to reword or look at the likely, we were going to reach out to Will.
I'm looking at
Phillips.
Jamie. Is that where, can you help Dawn with this? Because I
Policy
don't remember now.
BBBE, We're going to table
Yes.
temporarily.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, so I believe we are looking to move ILBAA, JLCJA, GBI with the amended motion, JICC, and JICC, no wait, JICCR, we're tabling that one.
Oh, that's right. We could ask Phyllis. She's got it all.
Yep.
Thank you, Phyllis.
And then the
Madam Secretary.
any motion to approve should also include with the adjustments as noted, because there's
Yes.
correctional and grammatical issues.
Grammatical adjustments. Yep.
All right, so do I have a motion to move policy ILBAA, JLCJA, GBI, and JICC with all the.
I'll get it,
noted?
Tom.
Okay, Pete.
I think it's pretty.
So moved.
We're gonna vote.
Wait.
Yeah, hold on. All
We're
right,
going into non-public anyway, so
The
we
ice
just gotta
cream
get up
truck?
and close.
It sounds like it. All right, so Jim moved the motion. Do I have a second?
Second. Get it to Tammy.
They can fight it out. All right, and as soon as Pete comes back, is there any further discussion quick before we?
God, no.
Okay, thank you.
I know some of you aren't old enough, but that was a good humor, man. Anybody here want a popsicle?
Yeah.
If only.
Want a toasted almond?
Oh, that sounds
All
good.
right, so all in
Can I
favor?
ask one question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I didn't bring that with me. The one on resignation on school board members, is that one, we're gonna discuss that tonight?
We did.
We did.
Vacancy, filling vacancy.
Vacancies,
What?
that's the one that that's the one that we tabled. We're not voting on that.
BB.
We're not
Okay,
voting on
good,
it.
because that's my hot button issue.
Yep.
Right.
That had to be drafted. Did you guys draft that?
The policy committee.
No, no,
Good-
Will
good
Phillips did.
Phillips.
The-
NHSBA.
Yeah.
You drafted that whole page and a half?
No,
No, no, no,
no,
no.
no, the New Hampshire School Boards Association did.
That's the hard work. I don't.
Okay, I'm
I
gonna
don't
say a
do
lawyer put that one together.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
yeah.
changed
Thank you
the
very
law.
much.
Yeah, the law changed.
Yeah.
All right,
because-
so Pete.
So we're not voting on that one.
No,
Right,
good.
no, so Pete, the motion is policy ILBAA, JLCJA, GBI, and JICC with the modifications that were voted on. So now we are ready for a vote. All in favor?
Hi.
All right, unanimous. Great. All right, second public comment. Since there is no one here, we will move on.
I'd like to appeal that decision to the superintendent.
Very funny.
All right.
Okay, so next Sanborn Regional School Board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, December 15th at 6 p.m. in the library at Sanborn Regional High School. Mr. Broderick, if you'd like to bring us.
Do we
into
have
the-
non-public? Why do we always have those things?
Oh,
Working hard,
because
Pete.
We have lots of.
There's lots
good
going on.
stuff.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. Go into non-public based on RSA 91-A:3, number 2, C and K.
Right, roll call vote.
Second, I'll second that.
Thank you. I'm trying to get there. Uh,
Yes.
Pete, Maura,
Yes.
Jamie,
Aye.
Tammy.
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
And myself, yes.